It's coming. Oops. Good day, guys. Today we have one of the most dynamic educators in the field. Today, Harry Mullen. He is coming to do interview 5 on the process. Welcome, Harry.
Thank you for having me.
How are you today?
Outstanding. Been extremely busy. Lots of stuff going on. Nothing's ever slow in sterile processing, no matter what part of the industry you're in.
Definitely. It is a very busy field. It helps you grow, and it keeps you busy. It keeps you moving. Harry, tell me about your journey. You said a while back in the 80s. Tell me a little bit about your journey in sterile processing in the 80s. What's the difference between then and now?
Well, there's a lot of difference. I first got my start in the medical field about a year after I graduated high school, and I went into the United States Navy. Became a hospital corpsman, which is best people know as a medic, and did my base training there. Learned how to treat patients. Had a lot of hands-on experience with patient care. From depending on where I was at, it was in the hospital. It was as if I was a nurse. If I was out on the ship with fellow corpsmen, more like a doctor or physician's assistant. After 4 years of active duty, I got out and was looking for a job and had an opportunity to start in sterile processing. I had very little experience dealing with sterilization because in the Navy, on board ship, we had a small sterilizer, the tabletop. And so started my career training at Western Medical Center. Probably within 6 months, I went ahead and tried to go to a larger hospital system. It's called Kaiser. And I spent 23 years with them. But the first 20 years with them, I, tried very much to be a supervisor and stuff. So I finally got my certification and started. That's what helped me to advance in my career.
Oh, and certification. How important is certification to you and in what you do? How important is it?
For me, it's extremely important. Had I still had that chip on my shoulder and decided that, I know what I'm doing. I don't need a certification. People should just recognize my talent, my ability, and advance me. I'd still be in the position that I was back in 2008. I'd still be a technician. The certification allowed me to move up to be a supervisor where I was for 2 years. And then move on to management, and then as time went on, I went ahead and got the CIS and the CHL probably about a month apart from each other. And the moment the next certification, CER, came available, the very first day it was available to take the test was December 1st, and that's when I took it and passed. And so the first time it was great.
Oh,
and
good,
it just it adds to credibility when I'm going out on for positions or going out on job assignments when, for whether it's an interim position or consulting position.
Mm-hmm. So, Harry, keeping on the same certification theme, how has the certification helped you do your job better, basically?
Well, it's given me a lot more resources to be able to pull from, because in order to complete the certifications, I had to do a little bit of studying, which gave me more in-depth knowledge about the standards. I always knew about the AMI standards, but I never had my own copy. But after, going on and, Isham is constantly pushing AMI when it comes to, knowing those standards, because that's the bread and butter of what we do. That's the backbone, so to speak. And so I started doing more education as far as the standards goes, and again, it just gave me a lot more resources to pull from, and which eventually led me to where I am today as being a content expert.
Definitely, and I agree with that. Certification does help you um, understand your role better, increases your knowledge, and also your interpersonal skills when
Mm-hmm.
dealing with being a leader over persons who are trying to perform the day-to-day tasks of within sterile processing. So
Great.
the Navy. When did you leave the Navy, and what pushed you or moved you to leave the Navy, or to leave also to move into the hospital sector? What motivated you to?
Well, I did 4 years active and 2 years active reserves. So, I mean, I did a total of 6 years. But to get out of active duty, honestly, it was because, being a medic, a corpsman, I used to see a lot of individuals who are married, um, you know, get themselves into trouble when they're going from port to port and everything. And so I had made a decision that if I was ever going to get married, that I would not stay uh, active in the military. And when I was overseas in the Philippines, that's where I met my wife. And when I decided that we were going to get married, and I was going to ask her to marry me. Um, that's when I knew that it was time for me to go ahead and get out of active duty and stuff.
Hmm.
But I continued on after we got married. I continued on with the reserves. Going once a month and 2 weeks out of the year, and got out of that just prior to Desert Shield and Desert Storm. So in
Hmm.
what was that, 1990?
Yeah.
When that happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. With the presidents Bush.
yeah, Bush. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bush
Yeah.
Senior.
Bush Senior. Yeah. That was a tough time in history. So you got out, and then you went into the medical field. You spent how many years in the medical field? 20. How many years as a technician? 20 years
Well, as a
altogether.
technician, 20, and been in management since 2008. So 13 years in management.
Hmm. And after becoming a technician and ultimately starting your school, which we'll get into, what motivated you to take the other step into entrepreneurship and starting your own school?
Well, I worked. I know that you've had Purnell, my partner, on the show, along with me, and several times back in. I would say probably 2009, 2010. We were uh, we worked at the same hospital together, and we had students coming to us. Generally they were operating room students, but there were also a lot of sterile processing students come to us. And personally, I didn't like the attitudes that the students had. They had uh, this sense of entitlement. It was like, you owe me this training. And it was like, I didn't understand it, because it's like, the school's not paying us to train you. The staff here at the hospital, they're taking their time. Now, granted, the hospital's paying them, but you're not paying the hospital for your training. So I'm just not understanding the attitude. And time and time again, student after student, seeing this, I just got, tired of it. And eventually what happened is that we brought in a program, this company from the outside, to come in and to certify our students, our employees, to get them prepared to take the certification exam. And while our staff were going through that process, it came to a realization that, when I was watching the classes, the instructor teach the class, my thought is that, I can do this. I can teach this course. I can, do something. And so we started, we didn't officially start Central Sterilization Solutions. We were independent instructors. Actually, the original name of the company was CRCST Technical that I came up with. And I was always worried that Isham was going to come after me and well, you can't name your company after our certification initials. But eventually Purnell came up with the name Central Sterilization Solutions. I loved it. And we went ahead and switched to that, and been that ever since. I'd say that was probably 2014 is when the name was created. And we actually made it absolutely official last year when we incorporated the school. So we did it as a fictitious business name prior to that, but last year we finally incorporated into an LLC.
Very interesting. And tell me a little bit about your school, your courses, the courses that you provide, and your curriculum. And where are you based out of?
Well, we're based out of Southern California. We prior to COVID, we had classes in Los Angeles. We would utilize Good Samaritan Hospital in downtown LA. They have a conference center that we would use. And then in Riverside, out in what's called the Inland Empire, it's Riverside County, we would use a community center. But unfortunately, with COVID, we had to pivot and transition very quickly to a virtual class by doing it through WebEx. But one of my dreams was to also create an online school with a portal where students 24/7 could access, depending on what shift they work, they could get access to the course anytime. And that actually probably went live. Oh, this is 2021. So I would say that probably went live in 2017. We've had online independent available to students that way. And then right now, we don't know if we're going to be going back to the classrooms, because of COVID. And we're actually seeing that attendance is a lot better. Students not having to leave their home to get to school on time, just logging in from home to the live virtual class. We used to have at some point 50-50, 50% of the students would show up and, the rest would, stay home. Now we're averaging about 98% of the students at any given time are still logged in and watching us throughout the entire course. Now, as far as the curriculum goes, our base course is the Isham's Sterile Processing Technician course, the CRCST. It's based on preparation to get the students ready to take the state exam. And when we first started teaching the course in 2011, actually February, we started our first class in February. We had the same average pass rate of students passing, taking when they took the certification exam as any of the other schools. And if you go onto the Isham website, Isham even reports that it's approximately, give or take percentage-wise, 65%. I wasn't satisfied with that, so I started looking, as each class progressed, I would ask students questions, find out, how they're studying, and we would change the outline as far as the method in which they should study. And, as far as the amount of time each session, so we have our students break up the sessions about 5 or 6 sessions throughout the day over a 2-day period for them to be able to get through any chapter. And then on the third day, they go ahead and do the homework assignments and chapter quizzes. And then the following 2 days after that, they go to the next chapter. And again, the third day after that is the homework and chapter quizzes. And then on the seventh day is when they come back to us and we lecture on what they've just covered in the previous week as far as what they studied, and then answer any of the questions. We've gone and we're currently now, it fluctuates depending on the students and the amount of effort they put through, but we're pretty close on average, about 95% of our students passing the certification exam the first time. It dips every once in a while, but we never dip below 90%. So we're very proud of that. And I'm still tweaking. I'm still adding. We've added the last 2 years or 2.5 years, I believe, possibly 3 now. It's getting old, see the gray hair. But we added a tutor who was a past student who started his own study group. And I noticed a marked improvement on the final exam scores with everybody that was in his study group. And I sat in on a few of his sessions. I was very impressed with him. And so after he graduated the school, we hired him back part-time to be a tutor. And he's wonderful because part of what we do is that if a student does take the exam and fails it, our tutor, Ken, he knows how to look at the exam results. And Isham's made it even more difficult because they used to give you a percentage score, and now they say you're at, well above, or above, well above, below, well below. And I'm like, heck, I don't know how to interpret that. But Ken's like, I got it. And he does a great job. So we are in the process of starting. We're actually in April. By the end of April, we should have the recordings finished to be able to offer the CIS course to anyone who is wanting to take it. And that will have, what is it? It'll be online. So it'll be like the online independent. Students will be able to log in at any time. It won't be a live lecture. It's going to be pre-recorded and stuff. So, and then later on in the year, our plan is to release CER and then CHL.
Okay. So Harry, keeping on the theme of your courses and what you provide to your students. What's different? What's the added sauce you put in your courses that increases your pass rate? Put your pass rate in the 90s versus the 60s.
Well, it's the whole curriculum. It's not just saying, hey, you got to study this way. We go through, for example, the chapter quizzes. Chapter 1. Question 1, the question is, soiled instruments and equipment enter into the blank area of the sterile processing department. And of course, the answer is decontamination. So we have them memorize those questions that way, to be able to look at the question and fill in the blank. Then I tell the students to take that answer once they've memorized it one way and really, turn it back into a statement, back into the question. So how that would sound is decontamination is where soiled instruments and equipment enter into the sterile processing department. And, it's just a minor change. It's not, that big of a deal. Most people say, well, that's just so simple. But when you really understand the workings of how a person's mind works, your brain doesn't differentiate as being the same, when you're doing it yourself. It looks at it as a completely different question because you're rewording it, not completely, but it's a slight enough change that when the student goes to take the exam from Isham, Isham is notorious in changing their questions around, and a lot of people get confused. And so because they're prepared for it, their brain's more ready to be able to identify, oh, there's a slight change in the question, but hey, I still see what the answer on the page is, and so they have a higher probability of being able to, you know, pick the right answer. So that's we don't know what the score is or what their final score is. All we know is at the end, Prometrics tells them that they pass. In addition to that, we again the method of study, telling them read for 20 minutes at a time, 5 or 6 times throughout the day, taking at least a half hour break, and now allowing the information to kind of simmer in the brain, so to speak. Allows them to be able to retain the information more effectively. And there's been studies that show that most people will, when they're reading a chapter, if they read it from start to finish, and let's say it takes them an hour and a half, 2 hours, they'll remember probably the first 15 minutes of what they read and the last 15 minutes of what they read. Everything else in the middle is just thrown away. They're not going to. And I'm a perfect example of that. I can read a book and or a chapter, and somebody says, well, what's that chapter about? Well, it was about anatomy. Okay, what about it? I'll be able to tell them in the beginning and the last stuff that I read in the end, and at the overall, I'm going, and I can't answer that question. I don't know, because I didn't retain the information. I understood the information, I just didn't retain it. And so with that method there of studying, over the 12 weeks, so about every other week, we're reminding students how they should be studying. That's number one. Number two is Isham did away with the flashcards that were in the 7th edition. We had copies of them, and we make sure that students get copies of those, and we tell them to study that throughout their course. We also let them know that anytime you take a test and you get an answer wrong, turn that question into a flashcard. So they're developing their own flashcards. And, there's just, I don't want to give away all the secrets, because I'm sure there's competition out there that are wanting to up their scores. But, that's just, just a taste of what it is that we do. I think also what really helps is the fact that our commitment to our students. I've had students who have had to take the course because of learning disabilities up to 3 times before they're able to even pass the course. And then they go on to take the certification exam and they pass it. A lot of, here in Southern California, and I won't name the schools, but, if you go through the course and you're like, you know what, I need to go through it again, they're going to charge you. And we don't do that. We want to make money, but it's not about the money. It's about changing the culture. And that's reason why we part of not just the students that we were running into, but the attitudes of that was changing in the field. Because we had a few of the employees that didn't care about their job. It was just a job. It wasn't a career. And I see the culture changing left and right. You see it online. You see it on Facebook. The questions that fellow technicians ask. People like Arlene Bush, where I see her on the screen saying, that's great news. Individuals like her that are always asking questions and finding the answers and bringing it to her staff, and her staff asking questions and stuff. So I think here in Southern California, we've been very successful in helping to change the culture. And I think it's the authenticity of the fact that my students know that I care about them. I care about their career because it's not a job. I've said this on your show before, Sterile MD, that if you treat it as a job, well, then it's that acronym, just over broke. And the truth of the matter is that it's not a job. It is a career. It's a profession. I tell my students that you're not just sterile processing technicians. You're infection control technicians. You are infection preventionists. That's what we are.
Definitely. And I like your strategy for retaining information in your teaching your courses. and that's very informative. I'll definitely take some of that away in the future and when I study for
Yeah.
exams. Um, so, in terms of your students, what demographic, what's the age range, and what type of people take your course? Are they younger, older, um, middle age, 20s, 30s? What type of people is that there? Are they finishing a career or starting their first career? What type of people take your courses?
All walks of life, all ages, races, cultures, you name it, come to our school. We do not discriminate. Probably one of the students that I'm most proud of, Maria, who was one of my very first students, 65-year-old woman. She was from El Salvador. She barely spoke English. Her daughter took the course with her, and her daughter and her would sit in the back of the class. And so everything I said, and the James is another teacher that would teach with me. Um, Everything we said during our lectures, her daughter would interpret to her 100%. And but she did it very quietly in the back of the class. And I had my doubts that somebody from El Salvador who was 65 and did not have a really strong grasp of English would fare well in the course, because Isham doesn't matter what country you're in, the test is given in English. They do not translate the test, as far as I know. I know when the test is given in the Philippines, it's not in Tagalog. I have friends over there, and they're like, nope, the test was given in English. Same with down in Mexico, it's given in English. But Maria surprised me, and again, she's the one person I'm most proud of, because not only did she pass the course, she had the highest grade on the final exam.
Oh wow!
And she was the first one out of the class to go on and get the certification. After getting her certification with the provisional, she went on to find her own hospital to do her clinical hours, and was the first one to get a job. And it's funny because although I don't see her very often, I know who her manager is, and periodically at conferences or one-day seminars, I see him, and I'll ask him how Maria's doing. And now you got to understand, this is when she was 65 back in 2011.
Wow.
So 10 years later, she is now 75, still working in the field and going strong. And the manager still says that she is working circles. She can't do everything. There's a lot of the heavy trays she can't lift and stuff, but they primarily have her, doing the clinical instrumentation because it's a lighter load. But she's really quick at it, extremely accurate. She'll go up on the floors, pick up equipment. She'll go and deliver equipment, and but her passion, her energy. The manager told me that she empowers the younger staff to be able to do better, and she encourages them and stuff. So our oldest student has been 65 when taking the course. Our youngest was 17, but on average, it's between 24. I would say 24 and 44 is the average age. We get a good cross representation of all ages in each class. So we'll have people that are older and people that are younger in the same class.
Hmm. You mentioned something. She was inspired. What keeps you going? What inspires you? What keeps you keeping your school open, striving for more courses, and growing your business? What keeps you going?
Well, I would say probably because number one, it's my own. It's not just my own. It's also my partners. That of what we do. What inspires me honestly is each past student that has graduated. that I still see that they reach out to me. They know that within reason, they're not calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning. But if they have a question, they have access to me. They know that they have access to my network. And my network would be, people like yourself, Arlene Bush back in Florida. We have Brad Odell, who is currently an interim manager, I believe, up in San Jose, but he was one that I met. Man knows all AMI standards. We're not just talking about ST79. Every single one of them he has committed to memory. As a matter of fact, I just got a hold of him today and said, hey, there's the section on, when you have a major repair, what the process running the 3 biologicals and the 3 Bowie dicks, and everybody always confuses having to do the Bowie dicks first when the standard clearly states 3 BIs then 3 Bowies. And so I mean, with a matter of seconds he's responding with the chapter, the page, the verse, the subtext, every detail, paragraph 1 and 2, and then exactly, and then he doesn't paraphrase, he states it exactly what it says, and and so I have that network, and because my students contact me all the time, they trust me, my passion rubs off on them. But honestly, my passion started back in 2005 from a coworker. Her name was Karen. When we first opened up a surgery center in Ontario, California, and she used to challenge me all the time. And so I have what's called empathy, but it's a little bit different than most people. Most people I feel really bad for that person. I can understand what they're going through. Me, I take it a little bit deeper. If you're angry about something, if you feel like you've been mistreated, then I feel just as angry as you do. I'm, and I'm just as passionate and hurt about it. So I take on other people's feelings, not just like, well, I understand that. I really get angry about it. If somebody's really happy about something, I get really happy. And so luckily, I've been exposed since 2005 on to individuals like Karen, Purnell, James, Arlene, a whole bunch of people. Everybody I come in contact with that has a passion for sterile processing, it just fuels me even that much more. And my drive is to pass on that information because I get that from other people, to pass it on to my students or to anybody I come across. A lot of the information I give out one-on-one is not only to my students, it's to individuals that reach out to me. I've had many technicians who've been in the field for many years reach out and say, hey, I want to take your course. And, I'm a sterile processing tech. And I'll be like, well, how long have you been in the field? And if they're like 10, 15 years, I'm like, don't bother. I discourage them from taking the course. What I tell them to do is, here's some files. Here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to study. Go take the exam. You have the information. You have the experience. You should be able to pass. And sure enough, they come back and tell me that they passed. And I get jazzed about that, and it's like, now my partners are like, well, Harry, we didn't get paid for that. And I'm like, I don't care. I believe in karma. Put out good, you get back good. And so there's a lot more. That's off the top of my head where my passion comes from. And I lived the first good 15 years of being a technician without passion. I probably spent the first 15 years trying to get out of the field to do something else because it was a job. It wasn't until I treated it as like a career that it became a career. And, now that I have the passion, I don't ever want to let it go. And I'm never going to let it go. I refuse to let it go.
I agree. I agree. I know you're very passionate. We've spoken for hours on sterile processing and just having fun and talking about real life issues involving sterile processing in the real world. And I think I see your passion, and I hope one day I'll be as passionate as you also. One
Well, I think you
question.
are. You have a different way of showing your passion. I mean, come on, you have this show. So, and you know, and let's be a little bit humanistic about this right now. I'd be lying if I didn't say I also enjoy a little bit of the attention. You know, when I go to these seminars here for the chapter that I'm involved with, you know, and I have my little groupies, and I'm not talking about these little girls, and I'm talking about men and women who look up to me, and you know, they after the conference, and you know, during off times, they're questioning me, and I'm just like spewing out the information, and they're just absorbing it, and I get a kick out of it. I have to be honest about it. So I'm not a rock star, but I feel like one.
Yeah. You get more joy by helping people than helping yourself. So, and
I
that's
believe
just,
so. Yeah, I believe
yeah,
that.
yeah, and that's a fact. I have one question. What would you tell your younger self when you're coming up? What advice would you give yourself coming up if you met younger Harry on the street and like, oh, that's me? What would you say that would propel you to where you want to be?
First thing I'd probably do is punch myself in the back of the head and say, "Hey, it's me, it's you. You're talking to yourself right now, and let me give you some of what you've experienced now before you go through it. Get that certification because guess what? Management doesn't care what you know. It's not what you know. It's what you can show to them that you understand, and that more importantly, that you find that education is important. All the acronyms, all the different initials after my name, the ones that I'm most proud of are every single one from Isham. I have my advanced degrees. Yeah, my bachelor's, my master's, and last year I got I don't talk about it much, but I got my PhD. But I don't care about those because you had to do certain curriculum, and it was just the point of that was, again, it just gives credibility having those initials. You know, sometimes matter of fact, look at this right here on my desk. It's always with me. I mean, I have my Isham certifications, that they sent to me, all four of them. It's folded up, but it's here. My degrees are in a folder in my desk. I don't even have them displayed. I don't care about my degrees. I care about the certifications because that's the industry that I'm in. And I would tell myself that, you know what? Until you take your education serious, nobody's going to take you serious. And then I'd also tell them that, you know what, for heaven's sakes, I know I'm meeting you at the time that you're already married. Stop eating so much.
Yeah.
Because you know what, my wife's from the Philippines, like I said, and I tell you, she's put a lot of pounds on me, and I've willingly done it because she's a wonderful cook. But I would say, hey, moderation.
Right. I agree, and I like your passion, and I like the advice too. I would tell myself the same exact thing. Like, get those certifications, and get them quick, and grow your knowledge. So Harry, we will do rapid fire questions in a few seconds.
All right, I'll
So
do my best.
after this 5 second break, we'll have some rapid fire questions just for some fun and some insight on Harry Mullen, who Harry Mullen really is. All right, be right
Okay.
back. Okay, we're back. Rapid fire questions. So, if you could buy any type of food right now, what would you buy?
Meat Lovers Pizza from Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut. What color is your toothbrush?
It's black because it's a one of those sonic toothbrushes from Waterpik.
Hmm. If you could be any animal, what would it be and why?
Cats. A cat. I love cats. Just they're It's funny. They can be cuddly and everything like that, but if you mess with them and they're not in the mood, they can also be very ferocious.
Very true. What is one of the one? Tell me one of the things on your bucket list.
Travel the world. I mean, I've traveled the world in the Navy, but I've only done the West Coast and Asia. But I would actually like to go on a world tour.
Who's your favorite superhero?
There's so many. Wolverine.
Why is that? Why you like Wolverine?
You know what? He doesn't take guff. He doesn't like bullies.
Mm.
And neither do I. It was one of those things. When I was a kid, I was bullied. Growing up, and I don't like bullies.
Okay. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
I would have to say it's a cross between Rocky Road or Neapolitan.
I don't like
probably utmost Neapolitan.
What's your favorite hobby?
Karaoke.
Oh, yeah. If I had some music now, we would have.
But I'm an old crooner. I'm more the old style, Frank Sinatra.
Okay, final question. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Sly, but trustworthy and opinionated.
Very good, very good. Well, anything else you want to share with the viewers? This will come to an end now, and thank you guys for watching. Anything else you want to share with your viewers? And before we leave.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I know that you post on CSS Nation on Facebook, the group. I would encourage everybody to join. And we've already had 2 episodes. Pernell, husband, and myself started a podcast, CSS Nation, and we are on Spotify, whole bunch of, iTunes. It's going to be on YouTube. So we have the video, and then of course it's also put into the audio portion as well. So we have we'll be releasing every Sunday, 9 a.m. East or Pacific Coast time. So 12 p.m. Eastern, and so I've been spending a lot of time on that group, trying to grow it. In the first month, it probably got it up to 125. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we're close to 250 or 275. Yeah. And we did that, probably in the last week. Yeah, so we've more than doubled it. And so I've been working every day to try to grow it and invite people. Anybody who's in sterile processing who supports sterile processing, if you're a vendor, you're more than welcome. I only have 2 rules. Number 1, be kind, and make sure your posts are respectful, and no politics or religion on the show. It's everything either medical related or sterile processing based, educational based.
And I like your group. I like your topics. I like the way you run your group also. And it's growing very quickly. Anybody who's interested in joining a Facebook group, check out CSS Nation. All right.
Also join the process. Sterile MD has that. I know all of his shows go on there as well as the CSS Nation, but we need to, there's not enough. There's plenty of platforms out there, but I've noticed there's a lot of platforms. Real quick, I'm sorry to extend your show for you, but
that's fine.
There's one group called Certified Registered Central Service Technician that has, I think it was 5,000 members. Their last post was February 5th last year. And you cannot, if you're not a member of the group, you can't even find it. People can only invite you if they are a member, but you can't even post to it. And I don't understand that. But there's other groups that have like 15,000, so there's a lot of competition, but they don't have as many posts as I see. The sterile processing travelers, very active. I'm a member of that. I'm a member of a lot of sterile processing groups, and there's a lot of good information out there for each and every one of us.
Yes, yes, definitely. And if you have a question, post it to a group. You'll get an answer usually faster than if you call the actual company sometimes.
Right.
Um, and if you do not have and you'll get an answer with person with experience, because sometimes the company will tell you read the IFUs, and they won't tell you how to interpret the IFUs. They'll say, well, that's what the IFU says. So in posting to a group, you'll get an explanation from someone with experience who dealt with that before, who's failed and who's succeeded. So if you post your questions to Facebook, you'll definitely get some responses. And definitely don't go with the first response. Wait a bit till you get two or three responses,
Right.
and make an educated decision based on that. But also, the disclaimer: follow your department's policies and procedures, or your facilities' policies and procedures, before you change or make any action in any decision, any issue you have within your department.
Right. And all of those policies should point to the IFU.
Definitely, definitely. So, guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you on the next interview. Thank you, Harry, and
Thank you.
good luck with your school. And I know you're doing good things, and we'll keep in touch, and we'll probably do a second interview sometime soon. I know you have more things going on, and we'll definitely go into that too.
All
So,
right.
thank you, and we'll see you